Republican Governor of Tennessee, Bill Lee, has turned down $84 million. Yes, $84 million in federal funding that could feed nearly 700,000 kids this summer when school meals aren't available. Instead, the state is running a smaller program that reaches fewer kids and gives the administration control over who gets help. Critics say this leaves hundreds of thousands of children hungry. For families counting on summer meals, this is a major deal. The governor says his program is better for Tennessee, but for how many kids? That federal money, of course, could have made the difference between eating and going hungry. Joining us now is Tennessee State Representative Justin Pearson. Glad to have you back on the show, Representative Pearson. Look, this is not just the first time a Republican governor has done this. We saw DeSantis do this. We saw Texas Governor Greg Abbott do this. These people love saying they're pro-life, but it's amazing how they love to deny basic food benefits for the most vulnerable.
Yeah, no, it's disgusting and it's dishonorable to the oath that we all swear to protect and care for the people in our states, the people in our communities. Governor Bill Lee is abandoning the children for another year of the summer food program and taking tax dollars that we paid already, $84 million, and just returning it to the federal government without actually fighting to make sure that every child in the summertime is not going to bed hungry. 1 out of 5 children are already food insecure in this state. Hundreds of thousands in my district need these resources, and the program that the governor actually launched to, in essence, replace what the federal government was giving did not include Shelby County. It didn't include Memphis, Tennessee. And so it was a program from its outset that was destructive and disruptive and did not actually meet the needs of hundreds of thousands of kids, not only in urban areas, but in suburban and rural areas across the state of Tennessee. And so myself and 9 of my colleagues today sent him a letter and are demanding that Governor Bill Lee apply for the $84 million of federal funding that's already been allocated for our state to be able to feed hungry children. A lot of people claim Christianity and claim these faith practices, but when it comes to actually feeding hungry people and feeding hungry children, they don't do it. And it's time for this hypocrisy to cease, time for the shenanigans of these games to end by this Republican party, and time to care for people in our communities.
I'm confused. So he has a program, but it didn't include Shelby County where Memphis is, but he's the governor for the whole state. So was he only trying to feed white rural Tennessee?
Mhm. I mean, he cared about certain children. He just didn't care about our children. He didn't care about our community. Memphis, Shelby County was not included in his pilot program for trying to replace what the federal government is doing. And right now, we're facing a budget deficit of nearly $1 billion that's being reduced. Even our veterans didn't get a single dollar increase in the budget this year because of the actions of this administration that have been fiscally irresponsible, giving tax breaks to the billion-dollar corporations and not caring or investing in people. But we know this federal program has resources allocated intentionally to help poor people. That's poor Black kids, poor Latina kids, poor white kids, and poor people in the state of Tennessee that we are not getting access to simply because of a decision by this governor and his administration not to care for our children. And that is so consequential to the health and the well-being of our families, of our communities, but it's devastating to the children who are going to bed hungry at night when they don't have to. The money's there. So often in government, you hear people say resources are scarce, but right now we know the resources are available. We have a lack of political will and human care affecting and infecting us right now.
So they like government money for other things, but not federal government money when it comes to feed hungry children.
In essence, right? When it comes to programs or ideas that they have that they think are going to move forward this agenda of hurt, of harm, sending in the National Guard to places like Memphis and getting federal money to be able to do so, getting federal investment in the form of military occupations that are arresting people unlawfully and unjustly in Memphis, in Minneapolis, all across the country. Those are the types of things that they are manning federal investment. But when it comes to actually meeting the bare needs of people, the dealing with the affordability crisis, feeding hungry kids, somehow Republican Governor Bill Lee is saying he doesn't have a responsibility to them. He doesn't view them as worthy of being able to eat in the summertime when we know they're not getting as much food because the school system is closed. And we know there are hundreds of thousands of people in our state and across the country who rely on food programs to be able to eat meals. that isn't something that should be political. It is not something that should be partisan. It should be something that is a moral issue and a moral question that we should obviously accept our tax dollars back to help the poorest and those who are in the most need, just like we should be expanding Medicaid in the poorest states in the country so that people can have access to it. And just like we should be making sure there's an Affordable Care Act premiums for people so that their premiums aren't going up 200-300% so that they'll be able to afford health care and not worry about dying because of an illness in a state like ours that has the most medical debt of any state in the United States of America. Their morals and their mentality is misplaced and is placed on the priorities of profit of corporations, but not actually caring for people.
All right, then, Representative Pearson, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
I appreciate you. Let's keep up the fight.
Yes, sir. Indeed. My panel is Dr. Ome Congo, Dominguez Senior, Professor of Lecturer, School of International Service, American University. Glad to have him with us. Also, author of Lies About Black People, How to Combat Racist. Dr. Terry Ann Scott, Director of the Institute for Common Power out of Phoenix, Arizona. Glad to have both of you here. This is what I don't understand, Ome Congo, and it is very basic. Federal government, federal government allocates this money. It goes to feed constituents. It goes to feed people. But you have these Republican governors who go, "Oh, no, 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 no. We don't believe in these federal funds, so therefore we're going to decide that we're just going to turn this money down." I remember during
Mhm.
COVID when all these Republican governors, like Bill Lee, were boasting about their surpluses. Do you know why they had a surplus? Because of federal money.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. And it's amazing that this continues to happen when you see these governors show a clear, callous mindset for the people of their state. They don't care if it's red or blue in terms of the people who voted for them or did not vote for them. Yes, obviously, when they talk about excluding areas that include Memphis, there are Republicans who live there. There are white people who live in these spaces as well. Clearly, not as many as people who may be affiliated with the Democratic Party or who are just black and brown. But I always find myself asking, where are the people? Where are the people of Tennessee who can say, I voted for you. Why are you doing this? Why are you destroying my family as well? I think some of these citizens of these states, they're comfortable with it all being burned to the ground as long as some other folks don't get ahead, as long as we don't get fed, as long as other brown folks in their communities don't get fed, because this is absolutely atrocious. I mean, they have this mindset of, well, I guess, we'll get fed some other way. But these are people who are never going to be leaders for all of the people, but enough of these white Republicans in these states are not standing up and speaking up. And so people like Bill Lee, they can get away with this continuously. And again, Roland, I've been watching the news all day. This is the first time that I'm seeing this story talked about anywhere. It's been written in some articles here and there, but in terms of like news and television and the like, it's not being discussed. And this is another way why these guys get over. And it's disgusting. And I'm so thankful for representatives like Pearson who are out there talking about this, and for you who are doing it. But when the people of these states start to stand up, when the people lead, the leaders will follow. And there are too many people in Tennessee who are just complacent and comfortable with this happening, even if it's at their own expense. And we can talk about everything from what's going to happen in the school budget cuts, other things that are affecting the poor, Meals on Wheels programs, folks, programs affecting senior citizens, run down the list. So many of this is getting cut, but they don't really seem to care. And that's why these governors continue to get over.
Terry Ann, the reality is what we're facing. It's an attack on poor people. It's specifically an
Mhm.
attack on poor Black people and poor
Right.
Latinos and others. And this is where what we keep saying: people are going to have to rise up and take to the streets,
Mhm.
nonviolent protests, but also they've got
Mhm.
to maximize their voting power because we're seeing this all across the country. And as long as people are willing to sit elections out, these crazy, deranged MAGA people will hold power.
That's right. And I think your point that it is tied completely to the vote is a valid one. And to say that people are not rising up, the point that you made earlier that we are not seeing this on the news cycles, that's exactly right. So if we keep people in ignorance, then they don't know what's happening. And so they are less prone to rise up. When the governor was asked why he's doing this, he said he didn't want to expand welfare. He didn't believe in welfare. Well, that's rich. Rich from Republicans who give welfare and tax cuts to their buddies, but he believes this to be welfare. But clearly he doesn't. He sees it as welfare for a very select group of individuals. Roland, the question that you asked the representative was the right one. Why Memphis? Why specifically Memphis is being cut out of that? It is very challenging for us to remove race from the equation for why he is doing this. And so we know that there are people outside of Memphis who are white, who are MAGA, who, to your point, are perfectly happy with not having those benefits extended either to themselves or to people within their communities, so long as Black or Brown does not benefit from those things. And this will continue to happen. When we talk about the importance of the vote and people say it doesn't matter, number one, we know that there are local elections that are won or lost by a handful of votes. Number two, if your vote didn't matter, then Republicans wouldn't go to such efforts to stop you from casting it. And so it is important for us to understand that even something like a summer program for food insecure children is tied to our elections.
At the end of the Selma to Montgomery March in 1965, Dr. King stood in front of the Alabama State House and told 25,000 Americans that the greatest threat to the greedy oligarchy is when poor blacks and poor whites and others mobilize together and form a voting bloc that can fundamentally shift the economic architecture of our nation. In America today, we have fewer voting right protections than we did when the Voting Rights Act was passed in 1965. And state legislatures have abused their power to try to pick their voters rather than let the voters pick their legislators. Meanwhile, every day people are suffering while the greedy get richer and richer. Dr. King was right, and many others were right. The billionaires who think they can buy our politicians are afraid of people coming together across dividing lines and building power together. In 2013 and 2014, we together in this state built out the Moral Monday movement. And in 2014, more than 80,000 people showed up in Raleigh for a mass people's assembly. We mobilized our power. We mobilized our vision. We did not continue to just resist what others were doing. We claimed the world that we wanted, the society that we wanted. And what we did energized. It was not partisan, it was principled. Here we are again now in 2026. And it's time to love forward together and mobilize. This is our Selma moment. And we need everybody, regardless of your race, your creed, your color, your religion, your sexuality, whoever you are. If you love voting rights for all, if you love abolishing poverty and bringing into reality living wage, if you love health care for all, if you love and grace and mercy and do not want to buy into the religious nationalism of hate and meanness and a lack of empathy, if you want to love forward together, welcoming immigrants rather than suffering ICE raids, if you love the environment and want to see it cared for rather than the polluters taking over, if you love fully supported public education, if you want to love, not hate, and to have peace and not war, to stand against unchecked militarization and the militarization of our cities, then it is time to come together and mobilize our power and our passion for justice. Then we now are in a moment where we must move from resistance to loving forward and mobilizing our power. So, from February 11th through the 14th, North Carolinians are going to be walking and marching and caravanning from Wilson to Raleigh. And on Saturday, February 14th, Valentine's Day, we will hold a massive People's Assembly for a moral agenda in Raleigh, North Carolina, saying it is time to love forward together. We are marching from a district that MAGA extremists, because of a call from President Trump, decided to gerrymander the 1st Congressional District, take it away from the people. And we are inviting all defenders of democracy and champions of the common good to meet us in Raleigh on February 14th to reclaim a moral agenda, an agenda for going forward, to pursue the society and the democracy that we want, not only for ourselves, but for our children's children. For somebody's been hurting our people, and it's gone on far too long, and we won't be quiet anymore. We will love forward together.